According to the auditor's account, this wasn't a split-second reaction to danger but a conscious choice to use force as a way to re-establish control. Instead of responding with professionalism when his behavior was questioned, the officer appeared to rely on intimidation to assert authority. From the auditor's perspective, this isn't what policing is meant to look like. Officers are expected to stay calm, composed, and accountable even when challenged, not react defensively when their conduct is scrutinized. What makes the moment especially concerning, he argues, is that it happened openly in front of the public, offering a clear example of what can unfold when those in positions of power struggle to accept being held to account. The auditor asserts that the officer's behavior may fall under Section 26 of the Criminal Justice in Courts Act 2015, legislation that makes it a criminal offense for police officers to misuse their powers or engage in misconduct while on duty. According to the auditor, the alleged assault did not occur during an arrest or in response to any threat, but simply after he challenged what he believed to be unprofessional conduct. He compares this situation to past cases where officers were prosecuted under the same legislation for abusing their authority. These examples, he argues, illustrate how seriously the law treats misconduct and reinforce the expectation that police powers must be exercised responsibly. The point he drives home is clear: accountability is essential, and when officers overstep their boundaries, the law provides mechanisms to address it. From the auditor's perspective, instead of addressing the legal challenge or acknowledging any potential mistakes, the officer shifts the focus toward his own discomfort, presenting himself as the victim rather than responding with accountability. Yet officers are trained to remain calm under pressure, and feeling uncomfortable is not a legitimate justification for using force, especially when the officer is the one closing the distance. The concern, as the auditor frames it, is the mindset this reflects: the idea that an officer can resort to physical force simply because a situation feels challenging. That has little to do with safety and much more to do with asserting authority when that authority is questioned. In the auditor's view, the decision to push someone to the ground and then justify it with what he believes was an unfounded rule is deeply troubling. He argues that this behavior doesn't align with professional policing standards and instead raises serious questions about conduct and accountability. From the auditor's point of view, he had just experienced what he believed to be an assault. He was shaken, hurt, and understandably angry. An emotional reaction in that moment is a natural human response. Using strong language isn't harassment or disorder, it's a raw expression of shock and distress. According to the auditor, the officer's reply, "Swear at me again and I'll lock you up," didn't reflect professionalism. It felt punitive, not calming, and came across as an abuse of authority rather than an attempt to manage a difficult situation. Police officers are held to a higher standard because of the responsibility that comes with their role. They are trained to remain composed under pressure, to show restraint, and to de-escalate rather than retaliate when emotions are running high. In the auditor's view, the threat of arrest in response to a distressed reaction didn't address the situation, it only intensified it. To him, it suggested a lack of reflection and an approach that risks damaging the trust the public is supposed to have in those who serve them. From the auditor's perspective, the second officer's explanation is deeply troubling. Attempting to downplay what he believes was an assault by saying our adrenaline was high not only minimizes the seriousness of the situation, but also risks normalizing forceful behavior from individuals who are specifically trained to stay composed under pressure. Police officers aren't ordinary members of the public reacting in the heat of the moment, they are professionals entrusted with authority, expected to rise above heightened emotions rather than be driven by them. The auditor sees the comment, "Whatever has happened," as an attempt to move past the incident without real scrutiny. He argues that if a member of the public pushed an officer and tried to rely on the same justification, it would never be accepted. Yet here, he believes the excuse is being used to frame the officer's actions as unavoidable rather than questionable. To the auditor, this kind of double standard is exactly what damages public trust. When accountability is brushed aside, confidence in fair and impartial policing inevitably erodes. The auditor raises a powerful point about one of the most persistent problems in modern policing, the silence of officers who witness misconduct. The College of Policing's own code of ethics emphasizes integrity, accountability, and the duty to challenge behavior that falls short of professional standards. That responsibility applies just as much when it involves a colleague. From the auditor's perspective, every instance where questionable actions go unchallenged widens the gap between the police and the public, and undermines the credibility of officers who genuinely strive to uphold the law fairly. The silence doesn't go unnoticed, people are watching, and in moments like these, a lack of intervention speaks just as loudly as any action. He argues that officers must be willing to hold one another to the standards they swore to uphold. Without that internal accountability, the meaning behind the badge becomes weakened, and the role of public servant risks becoming little more than a title. From the auditor's perspective, what happened was genuinely shocking. Even having grown up around difficult situations, he didn't expect to see behavior like this from a police officer. He's not claiming everything he did was perfect, but the reaction he witnessed felt extreme and unexpected. Viewers will see the footage themselves and can judge their own reaction, but many may find it confronting. According to the auditor, the officer seemed to calm down briefly before his attitude shifted again, as if ego took over. The priority, he says, is that everyone involved is safe. He also plans to seek legal advice, make the appropriate complaints, and submit the incident for review through the proper oversight bodies. In his view, incidents like this raise serious questions about suitability for the role and the standards expected of those in positions of authority. He acknowledges the personal connections involved, but stresses that professional accountability has to come before friendships. From his standpoint, behavior like this needs to be examined so the public can have confidence in the people responsible for their safety.